All right. So, Brian, question: When when setting these goals, I remember we were speaking about multitasking and how it's not beneficial or how it's not as efficient as honing in on one particular task.
Right.
What if you have multiple priorities to achieve by a certain time deadline, and multitasking is almost
Necessary.
and when doing so, if the dollar value is all equivalent, then how would you attack that?
Okay. First thing, nothing is in extremes. So when I talk about, focus and concentration and kind of like, one target at a time, energy, I don't mean to say that you should never ever multitask no matter what. Ultimately, you kind of have to judge it based off your own parameters. If you're more specific, then I could be more specific about how I would address it.
Okay, so for instance,
Like if you just make a rhetorical example or whatever.
I am in school
hmm
as well as a aspiring entrepreneur, as well as balancing my business goals with social
A social life.
life, but
Right.
more or less kind of social requirements considering the field that I'm into.
Right.
It's almost essential for me to
Politics.
stay within the loop
Yeah.
of certain
Right,
things. So in doing so, sometimes I find trouble balancing my schoolwork with my business work with my social life, and sometimes trying to multitask them, and sometimes it leaves me
Drained.
not necessarily drained, but executing them in partially mediocre style,
Okay.
or not to the fullest extent,
Right.
based off of that multitasking.
hmm
Um, so I was wondering if you had any words on that.
Okay. How let's say you're sitting down to do some homework, or you're sitting down to do some business work, or you're making a call, or you have a meeting coming up. Like I'm thinking that those are some of the major tasks related to each of those three. How refined and specific are you about the results you want before you start that task? Like maybe one thing you can do is kind of sit down. I got this concept I'm trying to develop, and it's called anime charging. And basically, like if you play any RPGs or you watch any animes like Dragon Ball Z or whatever, before someone shoots a fireball, they usually charge up. You get what I'm saying? I don't know if you actually seen that kind of symbolism. And the idea is, if you do some type of like brief meditation or brief concentration exercise before you start a particular thing, that visualization will feed your mind the ideas about how to go about that task. So you're not just visualizing what you want, you're actually charging your energy up so that when you blast the fireball, you attack on command. You get what I'm saying? So one thing you might want to do is, like, when you set aside that time to do the schoolwork, or when you set aside that time to do the business research or whatever, sit down and charge your mind like you're charging up a fireball or something about how you're going to attack the thing, so that you have a clear kind of vision in your mind about what you're doing and why you're doing it. Or if you have a meeting, before you get to the meeting, know what you want to get out of it and kind of be clear about it. You get what I'm saying?
Would you suggest that you write it down to make it more of a visual thing,
Uh,
or just implement it in your head?
Good question. I guess it depends on your personality type. Like with me, just the sit down part works. Maybe if it's more of an expanded thing or more of a detached thing, you should also write it down. It depends on your style. I guess you would just kind of operate how you work best. You know what I mean? But just experiment with it. Let's see, what else could you do? This is gonna sound a little repetitive, but my main thing is wake up early or something. Like if you can get up early, you can kind of get this feeling of having like 2 days in one. Like how it's basically 12 now, but I feel like I've been through a whole day basically. And if you can get into that habit, like I did the blog post, The Myth of 8 Hours Sleep, if you can get that early wake up time, you have a set of time to yourself to do things that you need to be isolated for, and then a set of social hours that you need to be networking for, and you can schedule it like that. Also, make a note to yourself of how you eat and how your energy corresponds before and after you eat things. Because what I do now is I basically work in 2.5 hour periods or 3 hour periods, and I have a light snack usually. I really have only like one serious meal a day, but I have light snacks of like raw fruit at 3 hour periods, and that keeps my mind clear and my energy clear, so that no matter what happens, I can kind of deal with it and respond in a generally constructive way.
Okay. Another question would be, I know that when